Time itself had stopped, literally. The world turned monochrome, a motionless snapshot. Marquis Riverbach's twisted grin, Elnor's shocked expression, even the blood spraying from the protagonist's chest wound, all frozen. Yet, his mind still functioned. He could perceive everything. Something was descending into his field of vision. A figure drifted down gently, as if gravity, no, the laws of physics themselves, did not apply to her. She had long, pure white hair flowing to her ankles, crimson eyes deeper than blood, and flawless skin untouched by blemish. She wore no clothing. Well, in the novel, anyway. This woman looked familiar. She looked like an older Elnor, but no human could emanate such corruption. This was the Grey Devil. In the game, it had never shown its true form directly. It only appeared as a boss battle, possessing Elnor at the climax. Meaning, the figure before him now was just an avatar. The devil's essence that Marquis Riverbach infused into his body contained only a fragment of the devil's power. When all fragments were gathered, the true devil could be summoned. Throughout the game's scenario, these fragments scattered and eventually converged within Elnor. It was inevitable. In other words, the avatar in front of him was just a tiny piece of the whole. The authority it wielded was insignificant compared to the true Grey Devil, and its materialization could last only a few dozen seconds at most. But even so, his system glitched, warnings breaking into nonsense. Blurg Xantok Marnefex Danger, Desperation EX class, activated automatically. Her gaze alone threatened instant death. The gap between them was insurmountable. Yet, she smiled. Her warmth unnervingly tender. Her eyes burned with obsession, as if her sole purpose was to love him. The answer lay in his skill, fatal charm. The more evil the alignment, the stronger the attraction. And the Grey Devil? The embodiment of destruction. Of course, she'd be obsessed. Then she moved closer and reached for his chest, and whispered, Ishksent Lova, you. The words fried his brain, sending tar-like revulsion through his veins. With a twist of her hand, time rewound. His fatal wound healed, replaced by a cryptic tattoo. Obtained the Fallen's seal. Its purpose, unknown. The system couldn't even describe it properly. Then, with a playful smile, she curled up, straying at him, as if asking, Need anything else? Now, if he got entangled with something like her, he didn't know how this would play out in the future. This was only chapter 1, and the story was already twisted from his involvement with Elnor and Elijah. Now, seeing an opportunity, he used his skill copy ticket on her. Skill copy activated. The Grey Devil was currently using Elnor's body. Meaning, from a game logic perspective, if he used skill copy now, he could take one of the Devil's skills, since the system treated her as one with Elnor. It sounded absurd. But even if it failed, he could still copy one of Elnor's skills. No loss either way. The system displayed a list of available skills. Indomitable, Supreme Genius, Mind's Eye, Warlord. He scrolled past Elnor's skills, straight to the very end. King of Pandemonium, Class A. Bow down to the Great Monarch. Embody the dignity of Hell's absolute ruler. Upon usage, grants unconditional advantage against demonic beings for 5 minutes. Just as he thought, this world ran on game rules. This skill wasn't something Elnor would have. It belonged to a devil boss. I want so much more. Even as just a fragment, the Grey Devil had countless overpowered skills. But except for this one, all others had broken descriptions, like a lottery with deadly side effects. Some might drain his lifespan, or activate only by killing someone close to him. The risks were too high. For now, this is enough. He selected the skill. Skill, King of Pandemonium, has been copied. The Grey Devil's eyes widened. She might not know exactly what happened, but she sensed something had changed within him. Her gaze flickered between herself and him, realizing he'd taken something from her, and she clapped in delight as if proud of his theft. And then, her time was up. As her avatar faded, she looked at him one last time, still smiling. Her voice crackled like a radio tuned to static, pounding his eardrums. Ishkzent Lova, you. Then, as her form flickered, Okay's Blen. Then, but before she could finish, Seize Blen. Later. Her body vanished. The last words he heard were crystal clear. At that time, definitely. You, a clear voice he would never forget. As the gray tint faded from the world, time violently snapped back into motion. In an instant, Dowd found himself back at the academy entrance facing Marquis Riverbach once more. The nobleman's arm was outstretched, the same black beam erupting from his fingertips, only this time it struck empty air, blasting a crater where Dowd had stood moments before. Riverbach's eyes widened in shock. He clearly sensed something had happened, yet retained no memory of the frozen moment. Then a fist came from behind. Riverbach spun, But too late. Dowd's punch connected like a thunderclap, smashing the Marquis into the ground with enough force to fracture the earth. Debris erupted as Riverbach lay sprawled in the rubble, his face twisted in disbelief, not just at Dowd's sudden surge in power, but at something deeper, something impossible. Dowd landed before him. Outwardly, he appeared unchanged, except for one critical difference. Skill, King of Pandemonium, activated. Absolute demonic advantage, 5 minutes. Enemy ability, Purification, nullified. Desperation elevated to EX class. Riverbach howled in rage, demanding to know how a lowly insect could negate divine power. But Dowd was already moving, his speed magnified by desperation. Riverbach barely choked out a protest, something about the Forerunner never warning him, before Dowd's fist caved in his face, launching him backward like a cannonball. As Riverbach crashed across the shattered ground, Dowd cracked his knuckles, his grin feral. "Round 2, he declared. "Bring it on. No more retreat, no more hesitation." This was Dowd Campbell, the man who had once one-punched a hero candidate. Now, it was time to teach this arrogant noble the consequences of underestimating him. Riverbach coughed blood, his wounds already stitching back together unnaturally. Dowd's aura flared like a crushing weight as he staggered upright, screaming in outrage. "How? How do you wield my power, but stronger?" This wasn't just anger. It was fury. Riverbach, a merchant who had clawed his way up from nothing, who had sacrificed everything for the devil's essence and the prophet's blessing. This power was his hard-won proof of transcendence. And now, the man he had already killed had returned. In mere seconds, this insect had stolen a power surpassing his own. Years of struggle, reduced to nothing. Again. It was beyond unfair. To have everything you'd ever earned erased, by the same man, in less than a day. No wonder Riverbach was losing his mind. With a thunderous thud, Marquis Riverbach's foot shattered the earth, his stance resembling a devout bow to a dark deity. A veil of inky blackness unfurled around him, cloaking his form in an ominous shroud. Skill, Black Mist. Class A. A demonic remnant born from the devil's essence. This skill corrodes nearby targets with malevolent energy. Its versatile applications hinge on the user's mastery. Common among demonized bosses who consumed the devil's essence, Black Mist wields both offensive and defensive prowess. Offensively, it inflicts excruciating damage to anything within range. Defensively, it repels most attacks, but Riverbach's power held even more terrors. Skill, Blessing of the Dark Soul, Class A. Fueled by the devil's essence rooted in his body, this skill amplifies all physical abilities, grants rapid regeneration, and bestows near immunity to physical damage. The overwhelming energy produces an absurdly potent effect, boosting stats and healing wounds in an instant. This explained why Elnor, a near master of close combat, struggled against him. Riverbach unleashed a guttural roar as Dowd Campbell's crimson eyes flared with defiance. Both surged with crackling energy, their fists colliding in a cataclysmic clash. The impact sent a shockwave rippling outward, shattering the surroundings. They recoiled, but Riverbach recovered faster, seizing Dowd's face with a vice-like grip. His other hand extended, claws gleaming like daggers, poised to tear Dowd apart. "Dowd, you bastard, die!" Riverbach bellowed, his attacks raining down like missiles. But Dowd refused to yield. Soul Linker activated. Magic power received. Skill, Guardian Shield, activated. A translucent shield, forged by infusing divine magic into the Ultima, materialized just in time. It shattered under Riverbach's demonic assault, but its divine nature held firm for a single, crucial block. An inherent advantage against demons. Riverbach's eyes widened in shock. "How can you wield divinity?" he demanded. Seizing the moment, Dowd drove his knee into Riverbach's face with the force of a missile, sending the Marquis hurtling. Riverbach crashed into a twin-tower building like a pinball, his momentum unchecked as he tumbled through the air. Glancing back, he saw Dowd leap with such explosive force that he seemed to vanish, reappearing in the sky before Riverbach could react. Dowd aimed a devastating kick, but Riverbach braced himself only for Dowd's skill to flicker out at the last second. Still, the kick's raw power sent Riverbach crashing onto a mysterious disc below. Dowd landed on it as well, both now lying flat on the catapult. Riverbach tried to move, but his body froze. No, it was fixed to the disc. A disc, he thought, bewildered. Why was this here? With a metallic squeak, a pole connected to the disc burrowed into the ground. Dowd smirked as he stood atop the disc. "Good thing I didn't return it," he remarked. With those words, he pressed a button. The disc launched both men skyward with terrifying force. Riverbach roared, "Dowd, I'll tear you to shreds!" Unfazed, after all, He had demonic flying ability. What could this pathetic ploy achieve? But Dowd had one final move. Drawing a cylinder from his waist, he aimed it at Riverbach. The Marquis's instincts screamed danger. "Your final words are so lame," Dowd quipped. A blinding beam of divine explosion erupted from the cylinder, engulfing Riverbach. His body disintegrated, flesh and bone dissolving piece by piece. In his final moments, a single thought flickered. Did he plan this from the start? Then, he was gone. Dowd sat on a rooftop, catching his breath. A cascade of system messages flashed before him. System message. Main quest completed. Granting rewards. Received Evil Essence 1x. Received Hero Fragment 1x. Received 5,000 PTs. Gazing at the sky, Dowd's mind raced. He marveled at the rewards, wondering if their abundance stemmed from the battle's heightened difficulty. Normally, he would have to choose between such prizes, but now he had gained 2 more tools to derail the plot. As Dowd recalled Elnor's injury, he hurriedly headed toward the academy gate where she had been hurt. Suddenly, President Atalante stepped forward from behind and stated that Elnor was safe. Dowd wondered when she had arrived, feeling caught off guard. Atalante explained that she had personally escorted the student council president to the ward and returned, adding that Elnor was badly injured but would recover soon due to Dowd's quick first aid, with no lasting effects expected. Her lips curved into a smile, but her eyes suggested otherwise. Dowd cautiously asked if she was angry. He thought to himself that she was definitely furious, noting the lack of warmth in her gaze, as cold sweat trickled down his back. Atalante responded by asking if it was that obvious, not bothering to deny her anger. Dowd realized he needed to listen carefully to avoid her wrath. Atalante remarked that he had clearly been through quite a bit of trouble, her eyes scanning him up and down. She suggested they move to a more comfortable place to talk. It was clear to Dowd that he had no choice but to agree. In the ward, Elnor lay asleep as doctors urgently exchanged words. One doctor asked if the transfusion was ready, to which another replied that it wasn't yet, but they would find it soon. The first doctor inquired about her heart rate, and the second reported it was under 50. As blood flowed from the bag into Elnor's veins, her eyes remained closed, her condition precarious. A doctor shouted, asking where the priest was and if he was coming. Suddenly, Elnor's eyes fluttered open. In Atalante's office, she confronted Dowd with a serious expression. She asked if he had involved himself with a demon, stating that the authorities had detected signs of corruption across a large area where he had been. She warned that both the Inquisition and the Holy Empire would take an interest in him, declaring that he had become the eye of the storm. Atalante fixed Dowd with a piercing gaze and asked if he had acted knowing things would escalate to this point. Dowd reflected that he had long given up on living as an extra, especially since he had formed direct ties with the demon. "Honestly, I think I just got lucky," he admitted aloud. Atalante revealed that the strongest of Pandemonium's rulers, the Grey Demon, was presumed to have chosen Student Council President Elnor as its vessel. Dowd, wincing from a knee injury, confirmed he was already aware. "My apologies," Atalante said, noticing his pain. She thanked him for fighting to protect the school in Elnor, then snapped her fingers, causing Dowd to float gently onto her lap. She urged him to focus, emphasizing that everything she was about to say was a secret. She explained that through the last warrior's final actions, demon fragments had been dispersed, one of which had manifested in their world. Dowd, momentarily distracted by Atalante's white curve, closeness, blushed, but listened as she continued. She stated that the other fragments would gather around a human at their center, noting that the Grey Demon had briefly awakened the previous day. She added that the other demon's vessels would soon converge. Dowd's thoughts raced. He recalled that in the original story, the other demon vessels caused calamities, like the Red Knight incident, driven by the Crimson Demon, which would engulf Elia's entire family. He noted that while the fragment chose its vessel randomly, changing with each playthrough, Elnor's and Elia's story moments remained constant. Atalante revealed that the Holy Empire's intelligence had already identified possible vessel candidates, with Elnor among them. She explained that she was gathering these candidates at the academy. Dowd marveled at the impressiveness of this strategy but questioned whether assembling so many dangerous individuals in one place was overkill. Atalante shared a rare occurrence. A demon's vessel once fell in true love, eradicating the demon fragment entirely, as love erased the seeds of destruction. Dowd dismissed this as a classic trope irrelevant to him. She then dropped a bombshell, stating that the Grey Demon seemed to have taken a liking to Dowd Campbell. Shocked, he protested, insisting it wasn't true. Atalante countered that she had seen everything. The demon had treated his wounds and even applauded him, clearly showing affection. Dowd insisted it was merely pity. Regardless of the reason, Adelante stressed the importance of the demon's strange interest in him. She affirmed that his judgment, knowledge, and execution ability had long been recognized and approved by her. Placing her hand on his chest and leaning closer, she made a startling request. She asked him to seduce the demon's vessels. Dowd broke free, exclaiming that he couldn't possibly do it. Adelante assured him she would do everything to help him flirt smoothly, but he retorted that wasn't the issue. She pointed out that all the candidates considered so far were female, calling it a blessing from the heavens. She suggested that as the man applauded by the gray demon, he could surely seduce any woman. Dowd's expression grew complicated. "You think I'm this hopeless with women, you hag?" he thought bitterly. Adelante urged him to use any means necessary to seduce them all and eradicate the demon fragments, claiming it would save the world. Dowd, skeptical, pointed out that she had mentioned true love was required, questioning how many times she expected him to be unfaithful. Adelante acknowledged the difficulty, warning that demon worshippers would pursue him and that the vessels were far from ordinary. Dowd thought to himself that they would be easier to deal with than her request. Despite the challenges, Adelante bowed and earnestly requested that he save mankind. Dowd, overwhelmed, thought, "I want to log out." Hesitantly, he asked what would happen if he failed to seduce them. Adelante casually reminded him of Chapter 14, stating that humanity would be annihilated, the world brought to ruin, and an empire of evil ruled by demons would rise. Dowd cursed the game developers in his mind. In the ward at Elfante's infirmary, Elnor slowly opened her eyes. She sat up, glancing around in confusion, and asked where she was. A nurse scolded a visitor, insisting that students couldn't just barge in. Beatrix, undeterred, retorted that she had visited the previous day as well, having skipped class to be there. Stepping forward, she began to say it would be a while before Elnor regained consciousness, but her words faltered as she noticed Elnor awake. "Hey, you!" Beatrix exclaimed. Elnor, surprised, asked if Beatrix had skipped class. Beatrix's face was etched with urgency as she bombarded Elnor with questions, her voice trembling with emotion. She asked how much Elnor intended to make her worry, confessing she thought Elnor had died and questioning how fiercely she had fought. Elnor, concerned for Dowd, urged Beatrix to calm down and asked what had happened to him. Wiping away tears, Beatrix explained that Dowd had already been discharged. She added with a hint of disdain that he hadn't been badly hurt, unlike Elnor, who was so severely injured that Beatrix feared she wouldn't survive. Elnor, puzzled, remarked that she had been that badly hurt while Dowd was unharmed. A flashback revealed a moment from days earlier. Beatrix, standing by Elnor's bedside, had noted that Elnor had been unconscious for 2 days. She warned Dowd that if Elnor never woke up, she would hold him responsible and kill him. Dowd, placing a bouquet of flowers by her side, reassured her confidently. He insisted that Elnor, as the student council president, wasn't meant to die in a place like this and guaranteed she'd be back on her feet in a few days. Beatrix, skeptical, asked how he could be so sure. Dowd replied that he had survived, and the Tristan family wasn't so weak that Elnor would need to risk her life to protect someone like him. Back in the present, Beatrix told Elnor to worry about Dowd later and asked if she had enough strength to hold a pen, addressing her as student council president. She announced that now that Elnor was awake, they needed to go over a few matters. Elnor protested, reminding Beatrix that she was still a patient. Beatrix pressed on, revealing she had received word about 2 individuals causing an uproar. The first was saintess Lucienne. Elnor noted that Lucienne was supposed to enroll next semester, but Beatrix clarified that plans had changed. Due to the recent incident Elnor was involved in, the Holy Empire and the Inquisition had made their moves, and Lucienne would now enroll the following week. Beatrix hesitated to mention the second person, but Elnor insisted she say who it was. Beatrix revealed that Sir Gideon would soon arrive at the academy. Elnor's eyes sparked with intensity as she muttered, "Father?" The 3 academies, renowned as gathering places for the continent's elite, always drew a high influx of people. As a result, the post towns along the route to the Golden Triangle buzzed with vibrant energy and life. Even the luxury accommodation housing the Holy Land's saintess couldn't escape the lively noise of the surroundings. A boy standing near the window remarked how pleasant it was to see the city so full of life. From behind him, the saintess, puffing on a cigarette, curtly demanded that he close the window, complaining that the light was unpleasant. The sight of the saintess smoking, a jarring contrast that would shock any devout believer, seemed to bother her not at all. The boy chuckled, finding it amusing that a saint of this era would be uncomfortable with light. The saintess retorted that if he had spent most of his life in a dark chapel, he would feel the same. He teased that their conversation had taken a rather dark turn so suddenly. She repeated her request to close the window, addressing him as her aide. The boy protested, saying he wanted to linger in the city's peace a bit longer. The saintess scoffed, questioning how he could speak of peace when a demon worshipper and a saintess shared the same room. Closing the window, the boy noted that he thought she had grown at least a bit friendlier, as the anxiety she showed during their first meeting seemed to have faded. The saintess clarified that their cooperation was purely due to a shared goal, and she had no intention of forming a friendship, asking if he genuinely thought that was even possible. The boy's shadow loomed as a grotesque presence, and he admitted it might be a stretch. As the saintess smoked, she eyed him warily. The boy mused that whether it was the humans controlling her, or the fate gripping his own life, it all felt much the same. The saintess told him to think about what he wanted, emphasizing that, at the very least, she had someone she needed to protect.